All right, William Moore, it's Elizabeth Wolf, and we will begin the meeting, so please begin recording. Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Elizabeth Wolf. I'm the designated federal official for the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention. This is a public meeting for the Federal Advisory Committee on Juvenile Justice. This meeting is being recorded, and notes will also be taken and posted on the FACJJ website. Before we begin the meeting, I'd like to do roll call to see which members are present. If you are a member, please take yourself off of mute when responding. Berlina Wallace.
Present.
Welcome. Tiffany Franklin. Thomas Frawley.
Present.
Adolphus Graves.
Present.
Corey Haynes.
Present.
Dave Hebmanowski.
Present.
Anthony Piero.
Present.
Kate Rickman.
Present.
Danica Rubenstein.
Present.
I heard. Great. Melanie Shapiro. Corey Solomon. Kenneth Tremble. Joe Vignati.
I'm here.
We're glad you're here, Joe. All right, with that, if any of the members join later, we'll make note to include them in the roster of those who are present. With that, I will turn the meeting over to Administrator Harp for opening remarks.
Hello, everyone. It's good to be with you. You can go ahead and mute yourselves. I think we're going to, the primary purpose of this is to work our way through the subcommittee recommendations to OJJDP for us to include in our report to Congress at the end of the year. So I think what we're going to do is, Joe, you're going to just start working your way through, read each and every one, and then there'll be a voice vote. Is that right, Elizabeth?
Correct. So Joe, you will read each of the recommendations. We will host some discussion about the recommendations, and then we will vote. If everybody is in favor, we won't do a roll call. But if there are any nays, I will ask for a roll call for everybody. So that's how we'll do it. There's a couple, maybe 7 recommendations altogether that we'll need to get through, and we'll have to read each and every single one of them and vote on them separately.
Okay. It sounds like a plan.
So that means...
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so that means I'm going to be doing a lot of talking.
Yep.
Yes, you are doing the heavy lift today, and we thank you very much for it.
More than happy, Administrator Harp. When you're ready, you let me know, and we'll get started.
Okay. Is there anything? I think we're good to go. Why don't you go ahead and start with the first one?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Okay, everybody, we're going to first start with the Subcommittee on Facilitating Compliance with the Juvenile Justice Reform Act. Judge Hebmanowski headed up this committee. What I'll do is I'll read each of the recommendations one by one, and after each recommendation, then I will ask for any questions or comments. Then we'll ask for a motion, and then a second, and then we'll vote. And then we'll move from that to each subsequent recommendation. So I'll go ahead and get started, and hopefully this will be not too painful for you. Okay, for the first recommendation of facilitating compliance, number 1, second or subsequent violation language. OJJDP should advise states that this language prohibits a juvenile from being continuously reincarcerated based upon a single violation of a court order. Detention time may still be imposed on a valid court order violation, but once a juvenile has served that time, in order for them to be returned to detention, a second or subsequent violation would have to occur, be charged, and be determined to be true. Are there any questions or comments regarding this recommendation? Hearing none, would someone like to make a motion to accept this recommendation?
Anthony Piero, so moved.
Thank you, Anthony. Do we have a second?
Second.
Corey Haynes will second.
I'm sorry, I heard a number of folks.
Corey Haynes will
Did you
second.
get who got the second? Okay, thank you, Corey. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Do we have any nays? Hearing none, we'll move on to the second recommendation. This concerns the effective monitoring universe language. And this is a little lengthy. OJJP should be empowered to implement an effective monitoring system that ensures state compliance with federal requirements across all state facilities that are subject to the Act's provisions. Further, the new use of the word effective should permit OJJP staff sufficient leeway to develop a compliance review plan that utilizes tiered, rotational, or multi-year reviews in a manner that is intended to garner maximum effectiveness with minimal burden on individual state systems. Of utmost importance is that OJJP staff be permitted sufficient leeway to determine the compliance review system that is most likely to be effective. Are there any questions or comments regarding recommendation number 2? Hearing none, we'll entertain a motion to accept this recommendation.
Tom Frawley moves, we accept the recommendation.
Thank you, Judge Stawley. Could we get a second on this?
Danica Rubenstein, I second.
Thank you, Danica. All in favor, please indicate.
Aye.
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 Do we have any nays? I'm not sure if that was a nay or a sneeze. Okay, hearing no nays, we'll move on to the Subcommittee on Educating the Field recommendations. And we have 3 recommendations relating to educating the field. Our first recommendation. OJJP creates a juvenile justice primer that is easily accessible to new juvenile justice professionals. Any comments or questions regarding this recommendation? Would someone like to make a motion to accept?
This is Tiffany
Corey
Franklin,
Haynes,
and I
so
make
moved.
the motion.
I think I heard Tiffany first. Corey, would you like to second?
That's fine.
Thank you, sir. All in favor, please indicate.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Are there any nays? All right, we'll move forward. Recommendation number 2. And these are requests, so while it's stating this as OJJP publishes, we're requesting that this is what we'd like OJJP to do. OJJP publishes its resources in an intuitively organized and searchable manner, and thereby increases awareness of these resources in the juvenile justice field. And as we're speaking of resources, this includes both online and printed materials, as well as conferences and meetings and trainings as such. Are there any questions or comments regarding this particular recommendation?
If it's all right, I have one question. This is Karen, by the way. I'm reading this. Because as we try to carry this out, I want to be sure we're getting it right. Intuitively organized. What exactly, I mean, are we talking about? Because my intuition and others might be completely different. So I just want to get a little more flesh and bones around that, if I could.
Sure. And if I can defer to Mr. Piero, since he's the chair of this subcommittee, I know there was a lot of talk about this. So, Anthony?
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Administrator. This is why I try not to use big words. They confuse me especially. So what we were hoping for was that everything that OJDDP does, that it was searchable, that it was something that somebody can find simply by a very simple, straightforward search term, and that they be organized in a way that made sense to a regular user, maybe somebody new to the juvenile justice field. So you didn't need to be an expert in the field to find what it is that you're looking for, and that they be organized. You know, one of the discussions was organized by, these are for judges, this is information for families, this is information for professionals in the probation field, and organized in a way that just made sense, I guess is probably the better way to say it, and in a way that a regular user with no juvenile justice experience, who may have no real even ability to understand the many variations that we have across the country on the various titles that people have, that things would just be easy to find in an organized, searchable way. Did that answer the question?
It absolutely did, and thank you so much for that. You know, we have this new website, and fortunately we have the ability to move things around on it with remarkable ease and in a real timely way. So this is something we can accommodate, I think, quickly. We will probably be bringing it back to you all to see if the modifications that we make comply with what you've recommended, or if this is what you all think. But yeah, this is doable, and I love this idea, just doing it with the end user being someone with no juvenile justice experience at all, and to walk through it and find everything they need. That's just a great idea. Thank you all so much for the clarification.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, of course.
Great question, Administrator. Are there any other comments or questions about this second recommendation? Okay, hearing none, would someone like to make a recommendation regarding this?
I move for this. I think it's a great idea. This is Kate.
Thank you, Kate. Could we get a second?
Tom Frawley will second.
Thank you, Judge Stolly. All in favor, please indicate.
Aye.
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 Any nays? All right. We'll move on to the third and final recommendation of educating the field. OJGP fosters relationships among federal staff, the FACJJ, and juvenile justice professionals by more clearly and deliberately engaging the state advisory groups in the work of the office. This includes specific trainings on the role of the SAG, its relationship to the community, and its obligation and commitment to the ideals of the JJDP Act. Are there any questions or comments regarding this recommendation? I'll make a motion.
Joe,
Would anyone like to make? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
I should have punched in faster. I just wanted to update you. I think this is a wonderful recommendation, and it's funny. I just came back from Kentucky, the Kentucky SAG last week, and we have North Carolina, and I think we've been working with Florida. They're in the pipeline, and we're getting requests. We told people, just invite us. We will come and help you any way we can, and they're taking us up on it. That's just an update for you. So this particular recommendation is timely, and we're just really happy to have it. So thank you all very much.
Well, thank you, Administrator. We appreciate the efforts that you and your staff have been making to conduct this type of outreach, and we feel it's important, and we appreciate that. Are there any other questions or comments regarding this recommendation? Would someone like to make a motion?
Berlina Wallace-Burby, I move that we accept this recommendation.
Thank you, ma'am. Could we get a second?
I'll second that. Steve Hemanowski.
Thank you, Judge. All in favor, please indicate.
Aye.
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 Do we have any nays? Okay, that's the third and final recommendation for the Subcommittee on Educating the Field. Thank you, Anthony, to you and your group. And now the third Subcommittee on Special Topics. This is Kate Richmond's group, and they have one recommendation that has 4 parts. So I'm going to read that now. OJJDP increases access and opportunities for rural communities to apply for federal and state level grant funding. This includes A, providing assistance to rural communities in basic grant writing skills, B, developing a marketing strategy specific to rural communities, C, where appropriate allowable, including language and solicitations that prioritizes awards to rural communities, and D, where appropriate allowable, streamlining solicitations to encourage and enable rural communities to apply for funding. Are there any comments or questions regarding this recommendation that relates to rural communities? Hearing none, would someone like to make a recommendation to accept this recommendation? Make a motion, I'm sorry.
This is Adolphus Graves. I move to accept the recommendation.
Thank you, Adolphus. And a second?
Berlina Wallace-Burby, I second.
Thank you, Ms. Wallace. All in favor, please indicate.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. This is really an important recommendation. Are there any nays? Hearing none, I moved to the second page where I found 3 additional recommendations that Kate and her group had. So my apologies. So we have 3 more recommendations to go through. So I'll try to be brief here and give the appropriate amount of time to these important recommendations. So recommendation number 2 for special topics, OJJDP provides training and technical assistance to help increase the capacity of rural communities to sustain youth-serving programs. Are there any questions or comments regarding this recommendation? Would anyone like to make a motion?
This is Tiffany Franklin. I make a motion to accept.
Thank you, ma'am. And do we have a second?
This is Anthony Pierre. I'll second.
Thank you, sir. All in favor, please indicate.
Aye.
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 Do we have any nays? Hearing none, we'll move on to recommendation number 3. OJJDP encourages collaboration with other federal partners, including the U.S. Departments of Health and Human Services, Agriculture, and Education, to implement comprehensive programs to address the needs of children in rural communities. Any questions or comments regarding this recommendation? Well, I'll make a comment. I appreciated in Kansas City the number of different federal partners that were present that presented to the FACJJ and to the different state entities and partners that were at the conference about their services. And I know that there was some discussion about how this can impact rural communities. So I appreciate that OJJDP is already doing this, and I appreciate this recommendation that this continue. Would anyone like to make a motion regarding this recommendation?
Berlina Wallace-Burby, I move that we adopt this recommendation.
Thank you, Berlina. Do we have a second, please?
This is Adolphus Graves. I second.
Thank you, Adolphus. All in favor, please indicate.
Aye.
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 And do we have any nays? Okay, and then we'll move on to the fourth and final recommendation. OJJDP designates staff as rural community subject matter experts. Are there any questions or comments regarding this recommendation? Okay, would someone like to make a motion to accept the recommendation?
Tom Frawley, I'll move the motion. Joe, I'm on that subcommittee if that means I shouldn't be the movant.
I think you're allowed to. Elizabeth, is there any issue with that?
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Judge. Could we get a second?
Corey Haynes will second.
Thank you, Corey. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Do we have any nays? No? Well, thank you all. I appreciate your patience with my rough voice this afternoon, and that completes our recommendations, and we turn this over back to the administrator, Ms. Hart.
Oh, thank you, Joe. Thanks so much for doing this. Y'all, I just have to tell you how much I appreciate these recommendations. I just want to give you a quick update on some of them, because some of them, you know, we've been discussing. I know your subcommittees have been working on these things and have been discussing them. And they've been such great ideas that we've tried to implement, gone ahead and tried to implement. We did the one about designating, finding staff, OJJDP staff who have a particular interest in rural issues and that subject matter, and developing them as subject matter experts in that. We have already done that across OJJDP. That one, it was just great, and so we have that one underway. And the one about reaching out to rural communities, you know, Attorney General Barr, maybe a month or so ago, was out in Montana and recognized the need for rural communities to be able to access these federal funds. And I think when everybody came back from that trip, there was the way I understand it is he said he really wants to do some coordinated outreach to the rural areas. So here in OJP, we just finished, I think it's an 8-state outreach kind of tour, and I think there are more planned, but it's right during this funding season, out to rural states and communities: Arizona, New Mexico, Kansas, Montana, South Dakota, Minnesota, I think Pennsylvania is coming up next week. I think there's 8 of them, somewhere between 8 and 10, where staff is out on the ground doing Grants 101 training in facilities in these states, trying to help folks find their way to some good funding and find ways to overcome maybe any barriers they have with regard to the application itself. So you all are on the same page, and we are trying to make that happen. But I think the point from your recommendation is it shouldn't just happen this year. This needs to happen every single funding cycle. We need to be out there doing this. Every time we have money or solicitations that we're getting ready to put out, we need to make this extra effort with regard to rural sites, rural communities, to help them access these funds as well. So this is just great. Let me see here if there's anything else. I can't thank you all enough for everything you did, your time, your effort. I know you all have incredibly busy calendars, and for you to take the time to do this was just really it's extraordinary, and I appreciate you very much, and we're going to do our best to implement everything that you've offered us here, absolutely everything. Do we have anything else? Are there questions or issues or anything we need to address? Do any of y'all have any questions or anything we can do for you?
I have 2 questions, Administrator, but I'll defer to others first.
Nope.
Okay.
I think
All right.
it's all you.
So, and this, Administrator, this may be a question probably for your staff. When will we see these recommendations go public or in a printed form, I guess?
Yeah.
is the
Well,
question.
the recommendations, as you all have presented them to us, are going to go up on the website. I'm not sure how quick is that going to happen. Do we know? Can we do it?
We can do it fairly soon.
Like this week?
Yeah.
It'll happen this week. I mean, as soon as we just get everything pulled together,
Okay.
it'll get up on the website. The report I'm going to write that includes these and that eventually then gets sent to Maine and over to Congress or whatever, that will come as quickly as I can make it happen. But these up in the public site, I would think would be able to happen this week.
Yep.
Would you like us to send you notice
Great.
when we get it posted?
That would be great. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We'll do that.
And my second question was, I know we're looking to have another meeting next month in March, so I wasn't sure if we were going to get more logistics via email in the next couple of weeks so we can make our plans to travel.
You should be contacted by Megan Barnes by the beginning of next week.
Okay.
To set up your
Sure.
travel arrangements. Okay?
That's in
Great.
person.
Thank you
and
so
that's
much.
Friday, March 6th.
Yep, March 6th in person here at OJP.
Yay. All right. Does anybody else have any comments, questions, concerns, anything you need me to do between now and when I see you in a couple of weeks?
Administrator Harp, this is Adolphus Graves down in Georgia. I would
Hello,
just like
sir.
to,
What can I do for you?
yes, ma'am. I would just like to publicly thank and acknowledge our subcommittee chairs, specifically in the Education Committee. We had Anthony Piero, who did a great job as far as keeping us on task and helping us through the meeting. And I'm sure all of the other subcommittees have similar sentiments, and just appreciate them for leading us through the work of getting to the point of being able to make these recommendations. So thank you, Mr. Piero and all.
Well, I will say thank you, all the chairs, and I'll certainly just speak for myself, but Administrator Harp, you have put together just a great group of people to do this work. It actually has been my pleasure. I have been inspired by everybody on the subcommittee, by your staff, by you, by our chair. This group has been just an amazing group to work with, and while Adolphus says that about me, I say that about my subcommittee, and I'm certain the other people on this committee. So I want to thank all of you, and you especially, Administrator, for bringing us together. So thank you.
Yes, and that would be Judge Hemanowski for the Compliance Committee and Kate Rickman for the Special Topics Committee. So thank you all, and to you as well, Anthony.
And this is Kate Rickman, and I echo everything that has been said so far. And I also, Administrator Harp, want to thank, I know you have an amazing crew and amazing team at OJJDP, but I cannot tell you how wonderful it is to work with them, and their dedication, their competence, and the way they can just get things done has been wonderful. And so especially I've had to lean on Elizabeth quite a bit, and so I want to thank you and your staff for all of their help.
And I will second all of that.
Well, thank you for those kind words. I don't think I've ever been more fortunate to have a group of people to work with than I have right now, and I fully understand and appreciate that you recognize how fortunate I am to have them to work with, because they are the heart and soul of this place. Okay, I think we're done. I think everybody's going to get a little time back on their calendar. That can't be a bad thing, right?
Right.
Thank you. Okay, thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll
Great.
see you
Thank
in
you,
a
ma'am.
couple of weeks. Okay.
Yep, everyone take care.
Thank you. Anika, hanging up. Thank you.